But overall, if you were to sum up the Australian performance, I mean, for them to also have this, 8 wins on a trot now, to, after their first 2 losses, everything came together for them. All the stuff that was working for India possibly unraveled for India. I think unraveled sounds a bit too severe. It wasn't that bad in the pits kind of a performance from India, but it was just short on the day against a side like Australia. But for Australia, everything came together and the momentum they built was absolutely flawless.
Well, absolutely. And when you look at their campaign, the way they've sort of snuck through a couple of games with like sort of mega performances by the likes of Maxwell and people like that, it's almost like when it gets to World Cups, like in football, as an Englishman, you don't want Germany to do well in the Football World Cup, and they always do. And in the cricket, you don't want Australia to do well, but they always do. They're a very, very hard-as-nails team, as Murali Kartik said. So they were just like a juggernaut. And on the day, I really... I've never felt more of an Indian fan than I was today. I feel like Newcastle United have lost a game of football here. I'm absolutely gutted. But you have to just, sometimes in a 2-horse race, one horse has to win. And it's such a shame for all those people in India, all those viewers you've got there, will be heartbroken. And rightly so, because, this Indian team have given an absolute wonderful account of themselves through the World Cup. And I'm absolutely with Murali Kartik. The way that Rohit Sharma batted in this game was magnificent again. He got them off to the exact sort of start that he did in the semi-final. The difference was this Australia lineup were able to keep chipping away, taking wickets, whereas New Zealand weren't, and it was just too much in the end. So I really feel for this Indian team because they've entertained and they've played brilliant cricket all along. And to fall at the final hurdle, so to speak, is heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching. But that man on the screen there, Travis Head, you've got to take your hat off. 2 or 3 years ago, no one in the world of cricket would barely heard of him, let alone think he'd be getting man of the match in a World Cup final. So it is a juggernaut. It's a production line in Australia. It just keeps churning out world-class players. And luckily for you in India, you're doing the same thing as well. So I've no doubt in 4 years' time, you'll be coming back even stronger.
But it has to pinch, isn't it, Ayaz? The way the campaign was going, possibly the last World Cup campaign for a few players in this team. I mean, look, think about Shami, for example, ending as the highest wicket taker of the tournament. Virat Kohli, the highest run getter by a mile in this tournament. Rohit Sharma second to him. And yet you end up second. And as Jimmy Paji very rightly said, nobody remembers the also-rans.
And the trajectory and the momentum that the Indian team created in this, and the trajectory which it kind of traveled till the final. I mean, as I think Kartik mentioned, or Jimmy Pa, you had one bad game. Unfortunately, alas, in Alack, it came in the final. It's also kind of
curious because you can't really call it a bad game.
I mean, you're always held by your own standards.
Yes. Yes.
So, if Virat Kohli gets a 40 or a Sachin gets a 40, it's good for a Kartik, but not good for a Kohli. So 40 is great for me, but he's the first ranker in the class.
You're upstaged by a team which
fine for me.
Far better on the day. The way the Aussies, and remember the Aussies were in a crisis while bowling. When Rohit Sharma was going bang bang against Hazelwood, there was a threat to them that this guy, he could have snatched the game and run away with it.
But great strategizing from Australia.
Great fielding.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
Head, and then, to pull the team out of a crisis, you're struggling at 46. Smith gone.
Didn't take the review. And then if you lose a wicket at that stage, I think Manas Labuschagne, he's made the point that you needed a player like him, and Australia found that player. Not he hasn't been having a great World Cup, actually.
But he's been chipping in with 30s and 40s.
Yeah, but you come good at the right time when a team needs
time.
And that's all you need. That's all you need. You don't need everybody to fire every time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just need the odd guy to chip in with a few performances, an odd guy to have the big performance. You had Travis Head having the big performance with the bat, and others chipping around him and to chase down a
This is possibly what the remorse for the Indian team is going to be, that so many, all 11 players in good form, but on the day when it really mattered, there wasn't that one match-winning performance today.
I mean, the Aussies silenced our strong batting, explosive batting lineup. And then, of course, they tamed the very potent attack that we've got, pace and spin. So you must give credit where it's due.
Absolutely. But Venki, Kartik very rightly mentioned, Australia did an India to us, because if you look at the 11, what India had been doing was that, after the first power play, even in the middle overs from the 11th to the 40th, they were actually very, very strong. Picked up most wickets than any team at a better average and the best economy. But today, if you look at it, India got only 2 boundaries, I believe, between the 11th and the 40th. So Australia really did an India to us in the final.
Fair enough, but then the pitch was not so conducive to bat on in the first innings. So it was not easy to bat. It was not coming on to the bat. And it was, look, the semi-finals that India played against New Zealand was a different sort of a track where the ball was coming on, and that's one of the reasons why they kept on scoring, and they, scored close to 400. So this pitch was completely different. And one of the reasons why I said it was not a bad idea to, for Pat Cummins to choose to bowl first. So they had to take their time. Probably, as I said, they should have got another, say, about 20-30 runs, and they would have got it if not for their fielding. But otherwise, it is two outstanding teams that was competing in the finals. So one had to lose and one had to win. As simple as that. There is nothing much that you could, not much of a difference that you could see in these two teams.
But Venki, as we wrap up this World Cup campaign, what would you say is the highlight for the Indian team, something that they can carry forward now?
Well, I think they've played some fantastic cricket throughout this World Cup, and they've played as a unit, and everybody's role was clearly defined. I think going forward, I'm sure they're going to carry a lot of confidence into the other series. I guess going forward we might miss, say, about a few players. I suppose this might be their last last World Cup for a few players, I guess. But then definitely they're going to come stronger. There's no doubt about it.
I asked, how do you think it would be seen, just from a critical point of view, from a journalistic point of view, going trophyless again after a very good run this time?
No, I think, look, I mean, it will dawn on the players themselves that they were so close. It's like almost snatched away from their grasp, so to speak. No discredit to Australia. But I think there are some things that have emerged which are, which make the future more optimistic. One is the kind of a template that emerged in this, the way Rohit Sharma led from the front, not just as a captain, but in showing the path as a batsman. And we've got richness of talent. I think what this World Cup, there's not one player who's really bombed. All the players have clicked. So the richness of talent, and there are so many players who can't be part of the squad because you can only have 15. So richness of talent is there. Role definition, which Venki's talked about, each one, what should be done. There are many more tournaments to come. There'll be more matches to be played. Each one will not be you won't be able to replicate exactly the same because the opponents vary, the pitches vary, players will vary, your own players. But there is a certain kind of pathway, which I think is a very dynamic route which this team has shown. Now, if you keep going that dynamic route, I think the team will do well more often than it will do badly.